Good afternoon. Let's get this thing going here. We're at the last session and all the diehards are in the room with plenty of elbow space. But we got some important stuff to talk about, and that's the state of aviation in North Carolina. And on stage we have Bobby Walston, the director of the North Carolina Department of Transportation Division of Aviation. We also have Dr. Daniel Findley, Senior Research Associate, North Carolina State University Institute for Transportation Research and Education. We also have Amanda Connor, Manager of Aviation Business Development with the NCDOT Division of Aviation. And we also are going to have a couple that are going to join us virtually. Pearlis Johnson, Deputy Regional Administrator, Southern Region with the Federal Aviation Administration. And I believe we might have Stephen Hicks, Director, Airports Division, Southern Region, FAA. And I'm going to turn it over to Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mark. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your new role. Excited for the next several coming months and your work you've done thus far. I think we should recognize Mark for a tremendous amount of work in his work behind the scenes and putting the conference together. So great job, Mark. Another one of those arduous, thankless roles as a board member, but it is a pretty big lift in the vice position to, guess what, you have the annual conference. So good job there. But what a great conference, a little bit unique for me in that my remarks are coming at the end. So thank you all for the real true loyal ones just sticking it out to the end. And you know, maybe want to hear a little bit about money. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with money, but it's important. But it's been really, really great for me, and I think our team to gather together finally in person. So very excited about that. Hearing such great keynote speakers and informative sessions, all the networking that's occurring, and I just plain flat out missed this. And if I hadn't had a chance to chat with any of you, I apologize. It's been really good, though, to catch up in person with several of you. And, you know, we've heard everything from how to make our places happier to all kinds of practical things, you know, about finances, revenues, lease ideas, to some even HR training at the end. So packed a lot of stuff in there. But, again, I think the real heartbeat and strength, too, is just all the great time to collaborate and work together and network. So it'll be a little bit of a theme of what I have to say today. So in this last session, we want to really kind of tie a bow on the convening, which is focused on the business of aviation, as everybody knows. I'd like to first share a few highlights from the past 2 years, 2+ years, since we last convened in March of 2019. And then I'd like to look ahead at some key opportunities that we see in strengthening our airport system and expanding aviation's impact through business development and data-informed decision making. So we still face uncertainty, and this pandemic has hit us very hard in some communities more than others, but certainly hit us all in many different ways. But one thing is certain and is clear to me is our airports continue to serve, you know, as a vital economic engine to our community and the people that we serve. So first thing I got to do, step over here and get the control. Okay, so first I want to send a shout out to our NCDOT Division of Aviation staff, who you see up here on the screen. They've been working hard this week, most of them here, but some that aren't here. But really glad to have all of them here and working. I just want you to know all these folks are working really hard for you all. And hopefully you've had an opportunity to connect with them, but if you haven't, try to at least shout at them. Please stand up real quick if you're here from the Division of Aviation. All right, so you can see we're there in the room. So pin them down if you can before you leave here. Also, our team at NCAA are here as members of the North Carolina Airport Technical Assistance Program and team. I had no idea about last night, so all these people were really called out last night, and huge honor for me to see that, and Andy Shorter, wherever he's at. Thank you for the way the classic style, the way you did that with awarding that to the team, because it's so true. But also these fine folks. So just remember that we're all available to you and really love what we do, and appreciate the opportunity to be here and be at the conference. So as I prepared for this session, I looked back to my presentation back in March of 2019. Again, it's like nearly 2.5 years ago. It's just amazing to think that when we were last together. And I saw this opening slide from that presentation and realized that, as much as things have changed and all the uncertainty and everything, many things remain the same. And this is all true to this slide even today. Perhaps even more so. So it speaks to the strength, commitment, resilience of this airport community in the face of unprecedented global changes. Throughout this crisis, you have collaborated and innovated, been a part of that, been part of many conversations and meetings and seeing this occur on the impact that you all have in your communities, and it's broadened to the state. So let me just take a few minutes to share some of the things that we have together accomplished as an airport community in the past 2 years. So first, for those of you in the room who are perhaps new to the community, and there are a few of you, then I want you to know a little bit more about our office and the Division of Aviation. And so we are a unit inside the North Carolina Department of Transportation dedicated to the state's system of public airports. And you've already seen my staff stand up and our AirTap folks over at NC State and the Institute for Transportation Research and Education, their support. But also I don't want to fail to mention Ms. Lisa Mathis, who was here and helped kick us off, our Division 8 NCDOT board member, and fellow colleague, Patrick Norman, who's here as the division engineer in Division 8. She did a great job really explaining her region in this area, but I'm also kind of hinting to her to become the aviation representative on the board as well, with her love of aviation and her background as well. Sorry about that, Patrick, but I had to get that in. So, and then we have 3 people, I think, still with us from the Office of Civil Rights with DOT. If they're here, raise your hand. There they are, up there in the back. And so they're here supporting us as well as some folks back in the office. So thank you all for being here as well. So our mission is pretty simple. It's to promote the economic well-being of North Carolina by developing a safe and robust air transportation system. And we do that through somewhat 5 core functions, and you can see them up here on the screen. Simply put, we provide state and conduit for federal airport grants to maintain and develop our airport infrastructure. And that's really a real core piece of this and ties us with you all so much. But we also are involved very heavily, and one of the leaders in the country as far as safe integration of newer technology, particularly when it comes to unmanned aerial system and drones for government, commercial, and recreational use. And through our our training and permit test process that we administer, we're like a little mini DMV for drones. Still trying to wrap my brain around that, but that has really given us awareness of who all is in this space in the state. So that's really exciting and very neat to be a part of that, and got some really good folks not here with us today that are involved with that. Many of you have met with them and know. Thirdly, aviation safety education and training that supports our safe and vibrant system. We have things to think about like talent pipeline and obviously workforce development in the greater, bigger airspace community, but also through our AirTap program and technical assistance. I'm just honored to be able to help pull you all together to, again, that collaboration and learn from one another on so many things in such a broad area of this industry. Air transportation, we still have a small flight department there at RDU Airport. So we have 2 King Airs and provide transportation for state officials. And then lastly, in our newest and most exciting area of late is our airspace business development. And you're going to hear a lot more about that today. So excited to really have 2 other panelists up here that are rock stars and helping in this area. And you all know that already for the most part, but looking forward to sharing some updates. So I'm just honored to be able to stand here and deliver this address like I do with State of Aviation. Again, our system of airports, very, very strong system and one to be proud of. 72 airports across our state, public airports. 10 of those are commercial service, so have scheduled airline service in them, and then 62 other general aviation airports in the form of municipality-owned, county-owned, authority, and the like. So somebody said a little bit earlier, you all have heard it many times, every airport is unique and different, and something that Dr. Findley and I talk about often, how they all have quite uniqueness to them, as you all know, and have very, very good strengths in certain areas, and not one airport has it all. So it's neat from that standpoint. A couple of neat factoids, as I'm still kind of giving a little overview, but 94% of the state's population lives within 30 minutes drive of a public airport. And then another point to be made, which is a strong one, is more than 97% of my office's budget that goes to aviation goes to support these airports through grants and infrastructure development, maintenance projects, and technical assistance. And then every 2 years, we produce an economic impact report that shows the return on investment for our airports and what they provide. This January, we released our latest report showing that our 72 airports collectively contribute more than $61 billion a year in economic impact, support more than 373,000 jobs, and generate $15 billion in personal income. And another smaller number, but very important number, $2.5 billion in state and local tax revenue. That's very, very important into our communities and where we live in our counties, in some cases back into our airport. And while the pandemic will certainly affect these numbers as we look to release the 2023 report, there's no arguing that there's significant contributions that our airports make to the communities and to the state. So following the release of this report, we've worked hard to try to get better and better than just publish a report and get it in your hands, but really try to focus on how we roll that out. And so this last year, we leveraged some technology and some of the things that we were picking up more and more with the pandemic. And we released this report in January. You all collaborated with us to share the story of impact in our communities and how airports support that growth of business, jobs, and the economy. So together, we made more than 35 presentations, reaching out more than 2,300 stakeholders according to our outreach dashboard. And that's what we set up, was a simple little dashboard that if you all made a presentation, I jokingly said if you spoke to your family about it, you should go to the dashboard and log it in there. But many of you did, and I just want to recognize you all that took the time to do this at a Rotary Club or at one of your county or city meetings or things, that you took the time to say, hey, I shared this and shared the story about the state, but also more important, how it related to your local airport. And you log that in, and that's a metric for us, and that's something that we were able and are able to report up, to communicate, hey, here's some impact and reach. So in addition to this, more than 50 stories were published in media and in our own outlets, expanding that reach to thousands more. So sharing our story helps your communities understand how important your airports are to their economic vitality. And I hear stories about that every day. We're always changing, always new elected members and new officials at local and all levels. And it's amazing to me, in some cases, how some have never even, some oddly enough, don't even know there's an airport in their community. And so it's really incumbent upon us to invite them out and expose them to some of the things that's going on, because it's not obvious oftentimes. And so wanted to recognize those folks. Okay, our airport community also generated impact. So we didn't slow down from the infrastructure development projects that you all undertook at your airports. So during fiscal years 2020 and 2021, our office awarded $163 million for 232 grants and paid more than $289 million in grant claims. So our staff's kind of taking a deep breath right now and a sigh, because we've been really, really busy. And although these numbers don't sound real big to highway side, but but they are hugely impactful for each of our airports and the projects and the pavement that they lay and the structures that we build. So that money turned over in the community, creating work and jobs, improving infrastructure of our airport system, and during this pandemic, providing a much needed boost to struggling communities and economies across the state. So really proud to see that despite all these challenges, we were able to continue to push these funds out and see this work continue. So with those grants, you built new terminals, completed the state's first cross-interstate approach lighting system, added hangars that helped generate revenues, built fuel storage facilities, and completed many, many other projects. So I hope you've been able to take a little bit of time and watch the projects highlighted on the slide loop playing throughout the conference, showing more of the projects that were completed and have already been undertaken and underway. And so I hope we can also make those slides available maybe on the website if you didn't get a chance to see those. Another example and unique is the impact that came from generous donations of this association and members from you all who supported our annual art contest 2 years in a row. North Carolina educators and students stepped up to, despite the pandemic, to turn in amazing artwork. Their efforts were rewarded in winning 5 of the 9 top spots in the 2021 national competition and 3 of the 9 top spots in the international competition. So the winners of the national went on to the international. And I'd like to recognize Greg Pecoraro. Greg, where are you at? Up in the back there. So Greg is another colleague of mine, and he is the president of the National Aviation Association, the National Aviation of State Officials. I should get that right because I'm honored to be chair this year of that association, but that's an association of all the state aviation agencies across the country. And Greg and his staff do a great job leading, but they champion this contest. And at face value, it might seem a little bit small, but I tell you, it's got great reach and impact, and we really leverage that to pull in lots of students to participate at this at all levels. And I think despite COVID, we went forward with it and had close to 800 entries. And so still created, we got some pictures, I probably should have put it in, of how we leveraged the space in our hangar to spread all this art out and bring in judges and folks. We even had the Secretary of Transportation come in and vote this year on the contest. And so they did a good job because the 5 winners, or the ones that we picked, the top 9, went on to win in national and then 3 international. And so really honored to say that. And as Greg knows, in some of the national meetings that I'm in, I like to show a little pride that North Carolina's got some artists, and it didn't come from me, that talent. But the past 2 years also saw significant innovations. We were all scrambling at the beginning of the pandemic to figure out how to connect to keep businesses moving, but quickly adapted to keep business of North Carolina aviation moving forward. So we found that virtual tools in many ways helped our division connect with our community, and in June of this last year, we launched a new series of quarterly community convenings online. And so while all of us like to get together in person, and as we have this week, airports from across the state have let us know in many different ways how much they've appreciated being able to connect with this community. I've run into several folks in the last 2 or 3 days and said, never met you, but I've seen you on the screen several times, and I don't know, that's kind of weird. But you know, I'm glad that, and we've definitely seen that this outreach has been working quite well and been allowing us to connect with people in airports that don't make it to this conference or aren't always able to connect with us in person. And so we've been able to get a lot of updates out from our office and stay more in touch and save a little bit on some traveling. So we're excited to say we're going to continue this quarterly and in this platform and in this way. So it's a great way for us to stay connected, and please continue to give us feedback on that. So virtually, and I mentioned this last night, but virtual technology also allowed us to continue our airport leadership and management program without really missing a beat. At the time of the 2019 conference, we had offered 3 in-person sessions, and I was like, this is the way to do this. You know, we just had great energy. We had 50 plus people come in and had just a great time talking about the subject matter of, you know, airports, a bit different aspects of it, the early topics. And it was obvious to me that this is going to go somewhere, and that we were just learning from people being relaxed and able to share stories, right? And real lessons learned on things that were happening. And so I really was concerned when we saw the pandemic, because I thought that was going to come to an end. But we pushed through, and our ITRI team and technology folks were able to really do that seamlessly, in some ways better, going on to the Zoom platform, and really regrouped and mobilized to continue the series virtually. And so now, as I said last night, 11 of the 12 courses have been complete, and we recognize these individuals on the screen for completing at least 9 of the 11 courses that's offered so far. So really excited to continue this process moving. We have our last of the 12 in the series, and that's going to be called the Airport Consultant, hopefully in person, but we'll see, and it's going to be offered in September, so look for those details. Okay, another innovation was, still talking innovation, was the launch of our new Aviation Business Development Program in June of 2019. And so we hired the young lady up here on the stage now, Stoller from Global Transport, but Amanda Connor, and you'll hear from her a little bit more in just a few minutes, with, as most of you have really gotten to know, because she has not slowed down and really met and talked to many of you across the state. And again, despite COVID, because it would have looked a lot different had that not happened. But the initiative fulfilled a recommendation of the Governor's Aviation Development Task Force back in 2016 to really embed a full-time employee in the division who could work collaboratively with the Department of Commerce, EDP&C, and stakeholders across the state to expand North Carolina's airspace economy. And it was just really exciting to see this day come, because knowing that there's lots of opportunities, and also knowing that there's lots of missed opportunities, we needed someone really to focus in on this. In June and July of 2020, we vetted a 3-pronged aerospace business development plan with leadership and stakeholders, and officially launched implementation of that plan to expand aviation's impact statewide. And you can see the 3 prongs there, and how we're going about attacking this. But Amanda just comes with a rich amount of experience and connections and understanding of a lot of the different programs that are accessible and available to our airports as resources. So more great stuff. So through her efforts, we have supported 28 airport business recruitment projects to recruit aircraft manufacturers, research and testing facilities, maintenance and repair operations, and corporate hangars. 4 projects have announced already, investments totaling $40.6 million, and expected to create 250 jobs in eastern North Carolina. So that work is continuing. And I also assigned her the management of the North Carolina Airport Economic Development Fund, which some of you probably recall was from the 2016 legislation that recognized the tax on aviation fuel. And so that state tax was just going to the general fund. Revenue didn't even have it differentiated between other fuel taxes. And so with some legislation, because FAA turned some attention to it and said it's really revenue diversion, that fuel tax should be going back to the airport. And so some legislation got passed and things got implemented, and now that money has been channeled back to DOT, to the Division of Aviation, to administer to general aviation airports for economic development fund projects. And so we've managed so far through this fund and this program, we've granted $25 million towards 6 projects at general aviation airports valued at nearly $50 million, and expected to create almost 700 jobs. So you can see the locations of those. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But you can see they're geographically dispersed, and didn't realize that you probably can't read that, so I apologize. So Amanda also identified a strategic planning resource for airport authorities offered by the North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Office, and has teamed with them to launch 5 5-year strategic planning projects with 2 communities. And so Mount Airy and Laurinburg-Maxton are the 2 airports first out of the gate with this, and we're seeing huge success. Mount Airy was first, and I don't want to go any further because I might be stepping on some of Amanda's comments, but seeing great success in that with, again, just working to pull all the right people into the room and talk about opportunities and possibilities. On the development side, in our grant program, we completed a long-time goal of launching a multi-year grant project program that will bring many benefits, including enabling better planning for airport projects. So you can see some of the information up there, but we're really excited about that and having things laid out and the reasons and the values for really tightening down on some of our future grant programs. We developed and released a wide range of guidance to help you navigate state and federal requirements, which aren't getting any less, it seems, and dealing with the compliance for your project. So without getting into a lot of detail in any of these, but you can see we're continuing to try to put out better and better guidance and information, recognizing that there's a lot to know, there's a lot to understand, and nobody knows it all, but continue to lean on your airport project managers and the resource that they are, but also some of these guidances that are available on our website. We launched our annual program of financial risk assessment that scores your level of risk, then works with you to mitigate that risk, improving our stewardship and public funds. Did I go too far? There it is. So, we worked, and I guess the good news there with this annual risk assessment, you see the improvement. And Betsy Beam, who is our manager of finance and grants in our office, really championed this. And thank you all for participating in this. And we continue to see great benefits of running this assessment and working with you all to help mitigate those. We worked with our general aviation partners to apply for, distribute, and manage more than $3.9 million in COVID relief grants, the federal COVID money, to general aviation airports, with more on the way from the American Rescue Plan Act that'll be this fall. And then in July, we rolled out an update on our EBS platform that contained many of the enhancements you asked for in our annual customer service surveys. So again, many examples, sorry, I don't know why it's doing that, but many examples of innovation and the impact through collaboration. And then finally, we got traction on a project we've been working on for several years now to get an approved state asphalt mix from FAA that's more affordable and available to our airports. So at airports direction, we'll test 2 mixes this year at Triangle North Airport and then Mid-Carolina Regional Airport. So stay tuned for the results of that. But as most of you all know, asphalt and concrete in these mixes have different specifications that are different, unique to what we use on highways and roads typically. So that tends to drive up cost when you go to advertise that work because of its uniqueness. Whereas if we can just get FAA to recognize our state mix and approve that, we can see some potential cost savings. We also launched a 1-year pilot program to test and validate an airport operations tracking program called VIRTOWER. And these folks, I guess they're in the room. There they are back there. They were exhibitors downstairs, and I hope you all got a chance to stop by their booth. Really excited about this product. And we believe it offers a lot of wealth of data and access to data that will help airports in our office make better decisions. What does it do? This tool takes available data that's really available to all of us, but in my opinion, it really brings it to life. So essentially, it's placing sensors out at the airport and is tracking the ADS-B broadcast signal as well as transponder signal, and really triangulates that down to very accurate information about aircraft operations. So what it does is, in my opinion, it's with some pretty straightforward process. It's almost like we're putting towers at all our non-towered airports, or the opportunity is there for that. So 5 airports are part of this program: Harnett Regional, Johnston County, Raleigh-Durham, Raleigh Exec, and then lastly out at Dare County Airport. So that's where we have these as test pilot studies. It started back in February. I've got Daniel Findley and ITRI involved in this to take a look at it, to validate the information, also cross-checking it against some other products that are doing similar things. But we are extremely excited about what we're seeing out of this, the information it's providing. Not only that, but the capabilities of what it can do for you all with data and awareness of operations at your airport. And for that matter, I said non-towered airports, but again, it's at Raleigh-Durham because we've got a sensor on our building. But we're finding the folks in the tower there are absolutely loving this and saying it's providing us information and data we've never had before. So great success there, and looking forward to releasing the findings of our pilot study, and then hopefully following up with that to present more opportunities to you all airports that are interested in that. Looking ahead, what's on the horizon for North Carolina aviation? Well, first, the latest FAA traffic counts through June continue to show that commercial service flights are rebounding, which is great news, and we've been hearing about it for the industry. General aviation airport flights held their own, and in some cases increased during the pandemic. And again, you've heard some of those stories, and in some cases, airports selling record level now fuel and seeing record levels of operations at your airport. So I feel like the rebound has occurred in some regard. In some cases, we didn't see a tremendous dip like in some industries. Legislative proposals. Strong support continues, and this is really exciting information for me to bring. But we have been fortunate, blessed, and really thankful for the increased support that we've seen from the General Assembly and the Administration for Aviation. Current proposed appropriations in the current Senate Appropriations Bill, Senate Bill 105. Is just shy of $130 million in fiscal year 22, which started July 1, and then almost $132 million in fiscal year 23. So it's a biennial budget, and we're in the long session, so they'll be passing a 2-year budget. In addition, between the Senate bill and then the House provision that was released last week, there's an additional over $105 million in airports that have been called out in there for additional funds. So that's on top of the funds for aviation through transportation. So really excited to see this happen and see this move forward. I would also be remiss if I didn't say, though, under transportation, that there's definitely an increased call for responsibility. And this affects all of us. Spend plans are the newer term, at least in terms of scope, schedule, and cost. A real focus on reporting requirements for aviation, and more reporting by commercial service airports on how they plan to use their state funds. So a major focus on accounting, transparency, accountability, and really excitingly moving the money. So think about it as an appropriations budget, and then we go through a process of delivering out grants and funds through our vehicles that we have. But the spend plan is what you are actually going to be able to spend or deliver that year. And so not only do we see the budget pass, but we also have to update how we're going and when we're going to spend that. So the only way we can do that accurately is receive accurate information from you all and projections and plans that you all think are deliverable and executable. And so again, that collaboration team effort with you and any planners or consultants that's working for you is making sure that we're getting that flow of information and constantly keeping that up to date on how we're doing. We know how we're spending the money, but in some cases as things don't move as fast as we want them to. So just be aware of that. So really the bottom line is the Division of Aviation, Airports, and Industry need to collaborate to ensure accurate schedules, project delivery on time and on budget. So Not necessarily any new terms there, but I will honestly tell you, and I think my colleagues can confirm, there's a tremendous amount of focus and energy being placed on this now. It's a new day somewhat, and you know, to much is given, much is expected, and so that's the case in this from even 5 or 6 years ago, is the support and the recognition, and I think that's really what it's been about, is the recognition of the value of aviation in our state is occurring. And with that comes that responsibility, is they've stepped up, as I've been saying, and so we want to continue to deliver on this, and we got some great stories and great projects to deliver. So, all right, with this year, we've been working with Daniel Findley at ITRI now to develop a range of new tools that will inform our work, help us recruit business, and help us make better decisions, which is really important. So many of you know Dr. Findley from his work managing our state of aviation economic impact research. We're excited to share some of these new innovations with you, and we hope that he will certainly help us make better decisions, and then also market your airport for newer investments. So at this point, Daniel, I'm going to turn it over to you, and looking forward for your remarks. Yes.
I want to start by thanking Bobby and Amanda and the rest of the Division of Aviation team and staff for really guiding us, and I would say in a lot of ways pushing us and encouraging us to make the data better, make it more accessible, and then turn it into useful information. I don't have any physical handouts like the magic wands from John Formica yesterday, but I do have that same passion and enthusiasm. I may not show it in the same way that he shows it, but this is all stuff that I get very excited about for anybody who's talked to me about it, and I hope that you will work with me and partner with me and with the Division of Aviation as you see things that will be helpful for you as I go through these tools, to let us know, because a lot of times it may be that it's highly capable to add functions, but we haven't thought that you may need it that way. So if there's anything that's bugging you that says, hey, I think I can get a little bit more out of this tool if it's set up a little differently, ask us. I work with a great team that can do this stuff, so we're happy to try and make it more useful. I am going to share a few dashboards and maps that I hope will be that resource for you on a lot of different elements that help you communicate the value and the impact of your airport. And again, we do have the ability to modify and improve these tools. I do see this as version 1.0, and even though a lot of work has already gone into these tools to improve them and get them where they are today, I think we can continue to refine and improve these. And of course, if there's any mistakes or omissions, please let me know those. We want to get those added or corrected if we do have those. The only thing from this presentation that you need to write down is just the web address at the top. So everything I talk about is accessible from that web address, go.ncsu.edu/NCAirports. So everything I show is going to be there. It's going to look like this dashboard, and really this is a dashboard of dashboards. I'm kind of embedded in each other. So what I'm going to actually show is, if you see on the left side of this screen, there's an individual link to each dashboard. So if you want to see it kind of expanded on your screen, you can click that and see just that dashboard in particular. There's also a little bit of a description there, so you can check that out, what's in there. And then we will make these, if you want any of these tutorials that I'm showing, I'll make those available to you as well if you want to kind of see a little bit of step-by-step exploring through these dashboards and maps. I do think we continue to grow in terms of our data richness in aviation, and the focus of these is going to be turning that data into useful information. A lot of these started as spreadsheets that were tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of rows and dozens of columns that are really difficult to interpret in that format. We've tried to show them visually to help with that process. So here are the dashboards on individual tabs on this first sheet. Again, go.ncsu.edu/NCAirports. And we're going to start with the economic contribution of the airports in the state. All 72 are shown on this map. This is an interactive dashboard, as most of them are. A lot of them are fairly intuitive once you start clicking around. You can't break these. So click around, play with things, change the input. If anything happens that looks strange, just refresh your page, and it'll reset everything, and you can start over again. So feel free to click through these.
You see a summary of all the selected airports on the left side of the page, and if you don't actually click on anything or drag and select multiple, it's going to show you the whole state. So that's on the left panel. On the bottom panel, you're going to see the relative weight of each airport that's selected in your group. So if you select just one, it's only going to show you one box. But if you select multiple, it's going to show you the proportion of jobs or economic contribution that is present relative to those airports. So to select an individual airport, you just click on the airport. So if you want to say, hey, I just want to look at my numbers, click on your airport, and it's going to show you those specific values. To select a group, you're just going to use your mouse and drag over multiple. Or if you're looking at different airports across the state, you can hold down Control and just click on multiple airports to select multiple. And you'll see here that the results do update dynamically as you change your selection. And through some of these videos, some of these tutorials that I've put together, I'm just adding layers, clicking on things just to show you some of the things that can be done in these various tools and dashboards. So this is everything that's in the great handout that Division of Aviation and NCDOT Communications works to produce. Instead of in that static form, this is in a dynamic dashboard. This is a map of aviation and aerospace businesses. The collaboration has been great trying to populate this. There aren't standard industry codes that capture everything that's in aviation and aerospace. There's lots of businesses that their primary function may show up as something else. So if you make tires for aircraft, that's going to just show up in tire manufacturing. And it may not have a code that ties it back to aviation. So there's a lot of kind of one-offs of figuring out, okay, what's that core function of that business, and is it in aviation or aerospace? So we work to add businesses that are in the space that we know of. Some are still missing. I'm sure we're missing businesses here. So this is a great one to look at in your communities. You know you have more businesses in aviation and aerospace. Send me an email. We'll get them added so that we can count them. And this is going to really help us in that state of aviation. So a lot of this builds into that product that we're going to develop every 2 years. We're going to have a good starting point each time to start looking at those businesses. And then at any point, if we get questions about, okay, in this multi-county or single-county area, how many aviation and aerospace businesses are there? We can go find this in 5 minutes. So hopefully it's a tool that we can all use and be more well-equipped when we get those kinds of requests. There are layers for airports, counties, businesses by type. So if you want to look at kind of businesses in the operation of aircraft, that's there. If you want to look at aerospace manufacturing, you can do that. And we know intuitively that there's big differences there, right? So there are businesses that are engaged in flying that are at your airports, and then there's companies that are making aircraft jet engines that aren't located at an airport, but they're still in the aerospace manufacturing industry. So we're trying to capture those as well. You can see highway corridors, for instance, is another one that I'm showing here. A lot of times just a question that we have gotten when we've developed these of, okay, where's your airport located in relation to some of the key highway corridors? We can add to this. So again, this is a thing if you say, hey, the important highway corridor in my area is this, let us know. We can add that for you. We're happy to make this more useful as we go along. And there's also several tools embedded in this that are used for evaluating the data. You'll see me clicking around here. These layers can be turned on and off, so depending on what you want to see. It can get very cluttered if you have all of them on at the same time, and so you'll see now there's just a lot of information. You can zoom in, turn things on or off. Again, I'd recommend spend a few minutes just clicking around, seeing what you find. If you're frustrated because it's not working the way you think it should, let me know, and we'll try to improve that as well. We can filter by business type, and that's what we're seeing here. So if we want to see just aircraft maintenance and operations, that's the only thing that's showing right now on this layer. If we want to see some of the other features and industry types, we can click those on: airport management, aviation logistics. It may be a new category. It may say, hey, we need to separate out this type of business out from this larger group. Let me know. We can do those kind of things. We can also search by radius. That has come in handy for a few requests that we've received. Somebody saying, hey, how many, and it can be pretty basic questions, how many airports are within 20 miles of this particular location? Very easy thing. You put the address in. I I just put Raleigh, so if we put 100 miles from Raleigh, we see 234 aviation businesses and 24 airports, and you can even expand that to see specifically which airports and their distance from the location that you select. So hopefully you'll find that some of these tools have some use, and again, if you need to tweak anything, if you think we could improve this, we would be glad to do that. We also do have an information tab, the next one over that we'll see in just a minute, that has more details and information, including instructions if you want to send us information. You're always welcome just to email me directly, but you can also follow the instructions that are embedded within this dashboard as well. So for now, I'm just kind of still clicking around, showing you if you zoom in, highway corridors are on, filtering some of the businesses. We can go back and turn off some of these layers if it's getting too cluttered here. And again, I do encourage you, if you're aware of aviation and aerospace businesses in your community, it would help us a lot. We'll be much more accurate. I've said in the past that our methods are very conservative for the state of aviation. I think general aviation in particular is probably half of what it actually is. We represent only probably half of it in our study because we don't know what we don't know. And so if all of us work together to populate this information, we'll be much more thorough and have a much more comprehensive picture of what's actually going on in our state in terms of aviation and aerospace. And one nice feature that we have added is the ability to download these records. So if you say, hey, I want to search for this county, this area, this business type, but I want a list of this so I can present this to a council, you can do that as well. And I'll show that in this demo in just a minute, that you can download all those lists of businesses. And this is a great opportunity, I think, to engage with your economic development community and specialists in your area. Get them on board, remind them that you've got the opportunity and some data sets that may be beneficial to them, identifying businesses in the aviation and aerospace sector. So right now I'm pulling up the business download, so it shows the details of those companies, and you just click the download button there, and it's going to download a spreadsheet for you to your computer of what is available in the records that you searched for. Next, we've got a dashboard showing business announcements throughout the state in aviation and aerospace. I'll talk through some of the layers here, starting with some of the airport marketing videos. These are ones that have been done by an airport. I think there's probably a lot more that I just haven't found or aren't aware of. So if you've done a marketing video for your airport, that'd be great to have. A lot of times we get a request saying, hey, can you share some information about a local airport? This is a great layer to point people to, just to say, hey, look, here's some specific examples. We've heard all conference, right? The airports are all unique. And so it's great to be able to give people specific examples of what's going on at your airports, particularly a few-minute-long video to give them that clear picture of what's available. We also have some state ranking information. So if you're just looking for data on how North Carolina's business climate is, what we rank in terms of tax climate or other things, we're trying to keep track of that in this dashboard as well. And we have individual layers by year for these business announcements. And so that's what I'm scrolling through here now. You can pick one particular year, you can leave them all on. But again, it's just a nice way if somebody says, what has happened in your region in the last 5 years in aviation and aerospace? Some of us with maybe better memories than me, you may be able to rattle those off your head. If you can't, this is going to be a great resource for you. Just go and look and say, here are the announcements that have happened in our county. But again, Amanda is great at sending these to me when she sees these types of articles, and I'm looking for them as well. But if you see something come across your desk or across your email, forward them to me, and I'll add them into this data set so that we have those represented in this map as well. Again, you can turn the layers on and off. If you only want to look at 2021, you can do that. If you want to look at some of the previous years, you can do that as well. So again, play around with this. If you see something's missing, shoot us those links, and I'll add those in. Next, we have a peer airport selection tool. And we've thought of probably a lot of different uses for this. Right now, I don't know how you may use it. We've got some ideas of maybe how I would use it. I'm excited for you to try this out and see if there's things we can do to enhance this. And the idea is that you can use these filters, and this shows all the airports in the United States, to identify potential peer airports. So if you want to say, hey, which airports have similar runway lengths, based aircraft, operations, distance to primary roads, distance to cities, acreage, population, type of airport, and then look to those, hopefully a small set, and see what are they doing? What are my peers doing that are within these operational characteristics that I have, and are there things I could learn from them? So you can click on your individual airport. You can search for your airport specifically if you want to look at what those factors are for your airport in particular, so that when you use the filtering tool, you know what to filter based on. And you can use the sliders over there on the left, or you can directly input values. The sliders are a little bit jumpy, so if you know exactly the value you want, just click on the box, as I'm doing here, type in the number you want, and it's going to set that range for you. And it's going to, on the right side, adjust the number of peer airports that you're going to see. And so that list of the potential airport peers will change dynamically as you change values. Again, start using this. Let me know what should be improved. Let me know if there's features or data fills that should be added that would help you better filter that data. Happy to do that. And you can see I continue to drag, and maybe you get to a point where you have a dozen airports that you say, okay, across the country, I'd like to look at these, see what they're doing, see what their characteristics are. Are there things that I can learn from my airport? We also have added a state-by-state feature. So if you only want to look inside the state, or maybe Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, you can do that, that functionality as well. So another tool that we're very excited about, and this is a huge data set, filed flight plan data for the state. So all 72 airports, we've got a huge data set from FAA, lots of great information, but spreadsheet overload. Too much information to decode on your own. Maybe if you're good with pivot tables, you can make it make sense. But we have a great team that put this dashboard together, so you can look at the whole state, so all 72 airports, or you can filter by a particular airport and look at the number of flights, in particular to different states or countries, and see where those filed flight plans are going. You can look at only arrivals or only departures or both. You can look at by federal fiscal year 19 or 20 or both. We plan to continue to add, so we'll keep the old data and continue just to add new data as that new data becomes available. And we can see both total flights, and then just below that on the left side, we can see the state-by-state flight numbers. And again, these are only filed flight plans, so it's important that we mention this as we present to different groups, that this does not represent the totality of your operations. These are only filed flight plans, so it's a small portion. It depends on your airport if it's what portion it is, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be a pretty small portion, but it helps tell that story. Where does our airport connect you to? Where does our 1 mile or maybe a little over a mile of runway connect you to in this country or even to other countries? And it's pretty eye-opening when you see this information. And so this was kind of one of our initial attempts at displaying the information of filed flight plans. As I mentioned, Bobby and Amanda, the Division of Aviation, has been great about pushing us. Where do we take this next? And we actually got this idea. Bobby and I both were sitting in this room 3-4 years ago, saw a presentation that had a graphic, an animation that inspired us. I think we both took a picture of it on our phones, and we're saying we've got to do this for our airports. So multiple years of having excellent graphic design interns has led to animating that, showing aircraft, having dynamic things. So at the top of the screen, you see months. So it goes from January through December. So we're going to see a full year here. We also see the states change color. So as a state has been visited, either a flight going to it or coming from it to your airport, it's going to show up. This is Duplin County. So this is only one airport. We're producing these for all airports. And it's showing that filed flight plan data. So the information we saw on the previous dashboard is now animated on this screen. It's a great backdrop for a presentation. I'm getting some thumbs up from people that have seen these or used them, putting it in your terminal building or just talking to people. nobody can relate to what does 5,000 flights look like? What does 200 flights look like? I don't know. But you show this and it brings it to life. You don't need any words really to even understand this. You could show this to anybody and I think they would understand this is the connection from your airport to these other places. And we do actually get specific. That last dashboard just shows state to state. This is showing specific airports. And so at this point, you're starting to see those bubbles grow, those circles grow. And so as that circle grows, that's indicating there are more flights to that particular airport from the airport of interest, specifically here, Duplin County. I'm picking on Georgia a little bit, and we did talk a little bit about this, how you could use it, and some of the insights that we had just in a short discussion about how you could use it and maybe what it could help you show. We do think it's an effective way to communicate the reach of the airport and the connections it facilitates. You know, that's to the general public. You just have somebody, hey, what does your airport do for us? Whether it's general public, local organizations, Rotary clubs, commissioners, councils, etc., I think would be really interested in this kind of animation. You can also use it to see the seasonal and monthly impacts and changes. So depending on where you're located, there may be big fluctuations in your operations. The winter, most of these start out a little bit slow in January and February. It gives you a chance to introduce what people are seeing. And then usually by the summer, we're really kind of picking up steam and seeing more activity. Again, the states are changing as you go across that timeline as well, and we can see reach all the way over to Nevada at this point has changed color. We also talked about that this could inform efforts to advertise at popular origins by targeting those markets. So if you see there are lots of flights, it may give you that little spark to say, why are people flying from that location or to that location? Should we be marketing in that location and telling people this is a good place to come? Look, your neighbors are coming here. You should be coming here too. And do some marketing and advertising there, looking potentially at businesses and industries that may be the source of those flights. It could give you the possibility, in particular in Duplin County, we talked about target marketing some of the Northeast Corridor airports for some of those transient fuel stops. And we see those up the eastern coast there that may be stopping in for fuel on their way down to Florida or other destinations. Understanding your customer base can help enable more effective services for those customers. And that's the whole goal of all this, right? Just displaying that information. How can we take all this data that's in a spreadsheet and get useful information out of it? And so we talked about, George and I talked about, we think it's an efficient way to turn in a lot of data, all that individual flight data, and it's honestly will probably start to hurt your head if you're looking at that spreadsheet trying to figure out what's going on, but you put it in this type of format and it's really going to make a lot more sense and allow you to take action based on those. You can use it during a presentation as a backdrop, and it does give you the ability to just have a continuous loop playing in your terminal building just to let people know what the reach of your airport is. Specifically at Duplin County, you can see some of the transient East Coast traffic, some of the leisure flights to the Bahamas, and even some to the mountains in the western part of the state. So again, I appreciate your partnership in all this. A lot of this is going to rely on you to help us improve these dashboards, the data. We want to improve functionality that's going to be more beneficial for you, so please let us know as you see those opportunities. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Connor, and she's going to talk to you about airport economic development and strategic planning. Thanks for your time.
So, that being said, I just want to thank you, Daniel, for that. Obviously, these tools are very important to me and what I do. Everything that I do is data-driven. So, as we run into a situation where we're like, where does that exist? Poor Daniel gets a phone call and creates it. Thank you for the time and obviously the dedicated ones that are remaining. As you can imagine, ITRI's data supports the invaluable work that is being done. Ultimately, I'm going to brief you today on how I am using them, and so hopefully we can brainstorm together on other ways that we can use the data, analyze it, visualize it, and share it across the state of North Carolina, not just within our airport community, but also with our developers, and also with whether they are local or regional. Which one is it? Thanks. Thank you, sir. So with the one that Daniel showed you, as we walked through, as Daniel showed you, the first thing that we had to do when creating the airport strategic planning was to map where we currently have those assets. What we discovered, and we already know, transportation is a critical support system for our industries. And so along existing corridors, you can see where the highest densities of aerospace business is located. It also gave us the opportunity to establish data working groups with other organizations that were looking for similar information. And so as we support Commerce and EDPNC, it was natural to form a data sharing group with those organizations, present the information, vet it with them, and also have them share information with us. We are still continuously meeting with this group, and so that includes freight and logistics with DOT. It includes the data and marketing folks with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and it also includes the lead analyst for Commerce. The Corridor Aerospace Group that we established show the highest density of aerospace business clusters in our state. And so if you look at the Piedmont Triad region, you can see those higher densities. We have representation there from Rick Reed. We also have representation in the Southeast with 18 counties with Joe Melvin, Mark Pope at the North Carolina Global Trans Park. We also have Clark Duncan in the West, and Charlotte Monroe area is represented by Chris Platay. Thank you. A lot of this data was used to host regional briefings. So it was very important that we not only share this and use it for the work that we're doing, but that we provide that outreach to show the impact across the state and enable them to also use that data. One of the things that I see that some of you may not would be requests for information for projects. Some of those, obviously you get cold calls, they fly directly into the airport, and so you have them. Some of them are coming through the state agencies, and they may be going through your local developer, they're doing the response. One of the really interesting things that I have seen coming from our airport project managers, coming from various consultants and partners, would be where we are receiving the request, we're using all the data that we have on hand to respond. Well, during COVID, this kind of presented a problem. You have this wealth of information in abundance, but people are unable to meet with you in person to receive it. So ultimately, working with ITRI, in a day's time, we submitted a request for information to you. You responded into that through Smartsheet. We were able to take that data, give it to ITRI to create this interactive dashboard. We then held a conference call with the client who was located in New York. We went through every single location. We were able to add additional layers to provide, community colleges, universities, the airports, looking at other companies in the area that were natural to help build out that ecosystem. And we are still in the running for that project because we were able to respond and able to represent even when we couldn't travel to them and they could not travel to us. And by the way, we also shared that information with EDPNC and Commerce so that as we moved forward, they knew that this tool was available, this data was available to also assist them as they're going through their development and recruitment. Bobby talked earlier about this critical economic development fund for our airports. General aviation airports are utilizing this for infrastructure to land projects. And so if you're filling a gap, whether that's through taxiway, aprons, sewer expansion, site development, yes, we categorize 25 million generating that 50. But if you look at this, you can actually see in each of these areas the estimated jobs, which is the critical component of that because that adds exponentially to it. There are 2 projects not represented here. And so as we continue to announce projects, we will add to this for representation. And really, if you're looking at this to be the above all, We know that projects significantly cost more than what this would generally generate, which is approximately $7 million a year. So we are also working very hard to identify other funding sources that could help with those projects. A lot of you I've talked with, you know, EDA, the Economic Development Administration, and the funding that they are bringing in, looking at some of those other state funds that exist within Commerce, and then also bringing in some of the private funds that may be with Golden Leaf or other entities. So we're delighted to have the money to support your business, and we're delighted to be able to continue to research to identify additional funding sources outside of them. I use this data all the time. As I mentioned, I'm calling Daniel just about every other day. And then, of course, the tools are pulling up for response and collaboration. If there is anything that you see, please, I encourage you, let us know. If there are things that you feel could be represented that we do not currently have, we would also be interested to have those and develop those. And because I know that you're awaiting some FAA communications, please call on me if I can help you with any of your projects. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to transition now to an update from our federal partners. And so Pearlis Johnson, we have you on, a Deputy Regional Administrator from the Southern Region in Atlanta. So Pearlis, we got you on the big screen, and we're happy to have you join us.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm always happy to join you all there in North Carolina. And good afternoon again to everyone there at Pinehurst. Wish I could be there with you, but I've been with you many times in the past, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the near future, in better times than we are currently in right now. I want to thank you all again for all the support you've given us over the years as we work through this pandemic and all the other issues associated with aviation. And before I get into my presentation, I would like to say I hope you and your families have been and will remain safe until we can meet again. I'm going to rush through my slides today because I know that's the end of the day, and for some reason I got a call and my clicker is all of a sudden now acting crazy. But I'm going to rush through these slides so Steve, I can leave time for Steve too. And Bobby, I was trying to make sure that people may stay around if they know Steve's going to be on with us later on during this presentation. So I'm going to go, the things I'm going to highlight from this slide is the areas we serve in the Southern region and the ADO personnel that work with you all a lot there, along with John Fowler. And I know just probably everybody in the room knows John Fowler. Now, this young man is someone you may know. His name is Brandon Gray. He's the executive director for the Wayne County Jetport in North Carolina. He was named FAA manager of the Southern region at the recent Airports Conference in 2021. And if he's still there, please acknowledge him for that. He was named Manager of the Year for his leadership transforming the airport there by the Commission Chairman, Greg Riker. Okay, let me go back. Okay, the hot topics I'm going to talk about, which I'm going to briefly go through because I think we've already talked about the DOT infrastructure bill that's working its way through. I know the North Carolina lobbyists talked about that yesterday, and I'm not going to talk on all of these right now. They're type of recovery, but you see what we're going to talk about. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide either because you all know we are starting to, we rebounded from the pandemic faster than I think we all thought we would, and we're moving in the right direction. And this is a snapshot of last year and this year operations, and everything is moving in the right direction. Another hot topic we're dealing with is unruly passengers. And as you can see, it's over 3,700 of those reports. As of August the 1st, it's going up. Last week, the administrator sent out a letter to the Part 139 airports asking for their help. We've been able to, from our research, we found out a lot of people have spent a lot of time at the concession bars in the airports before they board the planes. And they're selling in some places to-go packs for travelers consisting of alcohol. So we could use any help there you could help us with. These are some upcoming events that I know you all are very active with the drone program there in North Carolina. And I think you all may want to participate or attend some of these events, and the slides will be available to anybody with the links to get in. Another hot topic we're dealing with in North Carolina is laser strikes. It remains a big issue for us. It's not just in North Carolina, it's around the country. You can see those to the left. In North Carolina last year, we had 115 incidents, and so far this year, we've got 59. So anything you can do to help us in that area would be appreciated also. And if you want to report laser incident that you may have witnessed, there is a link to that site there on the slide. One of my other responsibilities is the emergency response program. And this slide, I wanted to call to your attention. We hadn't even reached the middle of hurricane season yet. And as you know, we've already had 5 incidents so far. And we got one in the Atlantic right now that will hit South Florida during the weekend, and probably the Panhandle on Sunday. And we're expecting quite a bit of rain here in Georgia on Tuesday, and probably coming your way. But again, this slide is just calling your attention. We're not even halfway there yet as far as hurricane season. Last but not least, I wanted to call your attention and thank you to our efforts that's been going on with the aviation education program. You all are big proponents of that, and I want to thank you along with all of the industry partners, including the SAO, for the activities and support in this area. And please, let's keep it going. I know in North Carolina, it's a state that's very strong in aviation, and we owe a lot that to you all. And Steve, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Pearlis. Hope everyone can see me, or if I'm on the screen or not. Doesn't appear that way. I'm not seeing that copy come back to me. So can everyone hear me okay out there in the audience? Okay, I'm getting a yes, everyone can hear me. First of all, I'm so tired of apologizing for not being somewhere in person. You know, with the pandemic, things have changed the way we do business quite a lot. But I will apologize for the late notification of my attendance to this conference. We had some scheduling conflicts that didn't get worked out to the very last minute. And I really wanted to be there, but at least I can participate virtually. And I know it's very late in the day, and you know, not last but not least, but we will get through this rather quickly. I have probably 4 items. But before I start, I want to just congratulate Bobby for all the wonderful stuff you guys are doing out there in North Carolina. You know, you guys are doing amazing work. That dashboard that was just presented, I would really love to have that presented at our next annual Southern Regions Airports Conference, if at all possible, which should be sometime obviously next year. And we got our fingers crossed that will be in person. But if not, I think there's some more discussions about that, because we're doing some type of things with technology and databases here in the Office of Airports that I think that information that you guys just presented would be extremely useful. So great work, and I'm glad I was able to see that presentation. Also, congratulations again to Brandon for his great work being the General Aviation Airport Manager of the Year. So congratulations. We're appreciate the support and everything that he's done there to keep that airport safe, and that development with the corporate hangars and that entire area was noteworthy. All right. I know everybody wants to talk about money, but I'm gonna get through some other items first, but I'm watching the time, so I know where we're at. Office of Airports have been involved in several different things that kind of affect all airports out there. And one of the issues I wanted to bring up is the PFAS issue. That's that fluorine-free foam research that is ongoing. You know, it's a major challenge facing the airport community right now, the PFAS. You know, PFAS is currently used as an aircraft firefighting foam, and the FAA has been doing a significant amount of research to find some type of replacement that can be used at the 139 airports. Actually, the Office of Airports have been partnering with the Department of Defense on these efforts to find some type of superior firefighting foam that ensures protection of the prime public. Although significant testing has been done, there's still been some items identified during the testing that we haven't been able to overcome, such as some of the options are out there. There's about 15 different replacement things are being looked at. They still don't offer the amount of extinguishing time that we need. It doesn't prevent against reignition of the flame, and there's a few other things. So the Office of Airport is still involved and working at, and we hope to have some additional information prior to October on what the plan is for the future on that. Another thing is the new entrance. There's a new word out there, advanced air mobility, or urban air mobility. This year, there's been a lot of new companies, a lot of investment from private industry. There's a lot of ideas that are coming out there. And you might have saw that the administrator has also put a greater emphasis on that. The FAA administrator, Steve Dixon, did. So they created a new executive council. Is the Advanced Air Mobility Integration Executive Council, and that group is formed to try to look at all of the different issues that are affecting all the different lines of businesses and try to come up with a plan in order to address these new entries into the NAS. So there'll be more information coming out on that. Also, the 383. Section 383 of the FAA Authorization Act of 2018 included a series of mandates that directed the FAA to ensure technologies to detect and mitigate risk posed by inherent or hostile unmanned UASs. And there's a 5-phase program, and we're currently in phase 1 of that program, which is the U.S. Airports Detection and Mitigation Research Program. And the Office of Airport is working with a whole bunch of different private companies to come up with that. I see Pearlis waving. I don't know if that means he can't hear me or not now, but. Okay, perfect. All right. So we're currently in phase 1 of that program. There's been a lot of airports that were selected to be involved in that, about 5 airports, but the initial testing was done in Atlantic City International Airport. But we continue to work those things. Besides that, there's also some initiatives that the Office of Airports has been looking at through our research center in Atlantic City, New Jersey, how to utilize drones to benefit airports. There's like a couple of different things that they've been looking at the testing, how to use drones for obstruction surveys, how to use drones for potential pavement inspections, wildlife hazard management, perimeter security, and also to assist aircraft rescue and firefighting doing live accidents and so forth. So those are just some of the other research initiatives that the Office of Airports is doing. So now that I got that all out in one breath, what I'll do, and I'm watching the time, is talk a little bit about the money. Everybody is always interested in that. I would say not a lot has changed since our conference that we had in earlier this year, the regional conference, but some things have. But as we mentioned before, last year, 2020, if you combine all the different programs we had AIP, we had the supplemental, we had CARES, the Southern Region Office gave out $2.9 billion in grants in Southern Region alone. As we all know, normally the normal AIP budget for the entire year nationwide is about $3.2 billion. But last year in the southern region, we gave out $2.9 billion in our region alone. And I think North Carolina did very well in those allocations. Now, there are some new funding programs coming out. I know everyone wants to talk about the infrastructure bill. Right now, we don't have any information that we can really share on that. We do know it passed the Senate. We don't know what those amounts are going to look like, what it really is going to mean, but it's probably safe to say it's more money coming your way real soon. So whenever that decision is made, we'll be able to get some information and put that out there. The Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act of 2020, that was another $2 billion that's being allocated. I think all the airports know at this point who they are. You have all the way up until August 26th or so to obligate those funds or to get them obligated. So be on the lookout for some quick notices, if not necessary, coming down from our office, asking for inputs on grants. That includes with the also American Recovery Grant. The supplemental 2020, as you know, that the supplemental was given to us of $400 million, was given to the Office of Airports to distribute that money. Those grants have not been released or announced yet. You will have up until the end of fiscal year 2023 in order to execute those grants. We really don't have the timeline of when those will be announced, but we are expecting that to be coming out probably sometime within the first quarter of next fiscal year. So be on the lookout for that also. And next, I want to talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan of 2021. As you guys know, in March of this year, the president signed that bailout. It was $8 billion that was allocated in a group formula in 4 groups. 100% federal share for airport development, general grants for primary airports, general grants for non-primary airports, and some concession rent relief grants. And I know there's been numbers floating around and so forth, and I don't have that. But those grants have yet to be announced or to be released. So hopefully that's another one that will be coming out here shortly. So I would recommend you continue to stay in close contact with your ADOs so that as soon as those grants are released, or as soon as you get the full notification, you can sign those grants and we can start getting those things executed. You do have members from the ADO that are attending this meeting. They're attending virtually. The manager, Tommy Dupree, he's on this meeting. If you guys have any questions about any of these new funding programs, please reach out to them. There's a lot of stuff we can't speak on right now because we don't have all the details. But one thing is important is that we continue to work together. Our teams are working with about 10 different programs right now when we used to have just one AIP program. So please be patient with us. There's going to be some short, quick turnaround. So please be aware of that. When we ask and send something out, we may say we need to get that grant executed in a shorter period of time. So be prepared for that. And I will leave the next 3 minutes open for any questions because I think this session terminates at 3:30. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Is this on? Thank you, Stephen. Does anyone have any questions for the FAA?
I don't know if this is for Stephen or for Bobby. You mentioned the supplemental grants. That's something that just a quick reminder. So with non-primary or general aviation airports, we're a block grant program, so we do administer the federal funds. Rachel, I'm looking for you. I don't know if we've been notified of how much supplemental, if any, but that would, what Steve Hicks mentioned there is the general bucket. And Rachel, you want to comment on it? Any more information? Yep. So, Steve, I don't know if you were able to hear that, but Rachel Bingham was commenting on, it's our understanding of the supplemental process is that any consideration or applications have already been turned in for that, and now we're just waiting on some announcements on projects and funding.
That's correct. They haven't really decided yet where the money is actually going to go. So that's why you guys haven't had any notices at this point.
I've already decided that I must create a slide that tracks all of this because there is a lot of money being slung around here in a lot of different buckets, and it's complex and hard to keep up with at the federal level for sure. So, but I personally want to say thank you, Steve, and for the support of Tommy and his team in the Memphis ADO office, supporting our airports and what all you all are doing above and beyond the normal ops tempo of the AIP or Airport Improvement Program, FAA program. I mean, it's with the CARES now, with the American Relief and Recovery Plan Act money. That's the third round of major funds that you all have heard a little bit of talk about that with Mike Langeth and talking about the COVID and the response, but it's been a tremendous response, and I think a lot of it had a lot to do with people jumping at the right time to say what the impact of COVID was going to mean to this industry, and a lot of people went into action quick, and so it resulted in a lot of great support that has propped up a lot of industry with our airports, mainly our major airports. But at any rate, want to recognize the extra work that FAA has been doing behind the scenes on a lot of that work.
Thank you, Bobby.
All right. Bob, did you have a question? The question was, did the FAA have any updates on the remote control towers? You want to take that, Stephen?
No, I don't want to take that one. That's an ATO issue. That would not be in my area of responsibility. Pearlis, I don't know if you have any comments.
We'll do our own research.
I have no update either.
Okay. The U.S. Contract Tower Association meeting usually has a great update on that, so we'll find out for you, Bob. Well, is there any other questions? We're going to close it up here. I got two reminders. One is that even during the session, I got a little message that the bonus session online, What Did I Sign? The Grant Assurances Demystified, is available. If you don't get that, Lisa will be sending out an email possibly, but I think that's on the app. And then also, we've claimed about half of Mark Wisby's money that he is willing to pledge, so there's still a little bit more time to get some more of his money donated to the foundation, and Jeff Perry's over there on the side still. I noticed he's still here. That's great. And then also wanted to just thank everyone for coming, and once again, thanks to our sponsors and exhibitors for their tremendous support. We cannot do this conference without them, and we look forward to seeing everyone at 2022 when it's going to be in my hometown of Winston-Salem. So mark your calendars and have a good, safe trip home.